Hi, my name is Brittany. I am the operations manager for On Point Events, and I'm going to be doing a deep dive for selling the Masters Golf Tournament. So, jumping right in, I'm going to go over the agenda of this webinar and some key takeaways that I'm looking for you to come away with. I'll go over the perfect client for the Masters. We'll do an event deep dive, going over the tournament itself, the layout, and also what we can offer as far as experiences, inclusions, pricing. We'll talk about qualifying questions to assist in selling, and then we'll go over some frequently asked questions that we typically get. So going over some of the key takeaways that I'm looking for you to come away with. First off, the Masters is an iconic bucket list event, especially for golf enthusiasts. So Hi, travel advisors. Thank you so much for joining us for our deep dive webinar for selling the Masters Golf Tournament. My name is Brittany. I am the operations manager for On Point Events. And today we're going to do a deep dive for selling the Masters Golf Tournament. So going over some of the agenda for the webinar, we'll go over the key takeaways that I look for you to come away with. We'll go over the perfect client, who is the perfect client for the Masters. We'll do a deep dive into the tournament itself and kind of some information regarding this event. We'll go over our inclusions, our experiences that we offer. We'll go over some pricing. And then we'll go over some qualifying questions to assist you in selling, and then any frequently asked questions that we typically get from our travel advisors. So jumping right in, we will start with the key takeaways. So first off, the Masters is an iconic bucket list event, especially for golf enthusiasts. If you're familiar with golf, you know the Masters Golf Tournament at Augusta National. It's just one of those events that's just kind of, if you're a fan, it's at the top of your list for sure. We have some great private homes and hotel options for this event, as well as the extremely high demand tickets for this particular event. We do offer 12% commission, and we typically see that an average package per person is around $12,750 to kind of give you an idea of what those commissions would look like. And then we'll go over how to leverage us as your partner, not just a supplier. So jumping into who is the perfect client for the Masters. So for our FIT, our individual travelers, we will typically see sports enthusiasts, especially if they play golf. So keep in mind for those that may be a part of country clubs or, just avid golf players, the Masters is probably on their bucket list. So, we'll see that a lot that, they've got to see Augusta National and see the Masters once, for those bucket list checkers. This is also extremely popular with couples and friend groups, as well as guys' trips, father-son trips. This is really a great event for them. And then for any of our travel advisors that handle corporate bookings or corporate travel, we see a lot of individual and group sales incentives, as well as client entertainment. And we really have a great program in place for these types of bookings. So be thinking about who you may know for this event. So jumping into the Masters, we're going to talk about the basics. So first off, it happens every year in April in Augusta, Georgia. Augusta, Georgia is located about 2.5 hours east of Atlanta. It is one of the majors of golf. So there are 4 majors in golf, kind of like tennis, with the Masters being the first. The PGA Championship is in May. US Open is in June, and then the Open Championship, the final major, is in July. This tournament is from Monday until Sunday. There are 3 practice rounds and then 4 days of the tournament. So this is considered to be the holy grail of golf for avid fans. Something that kind of sets Augusta National and the Masters are apart from some of the other majors. It's the only major that stays in the same place every year. So with that comes the tradition, the allure, people see it on TV year after year. It really kind of creates that stickiness of wanting to see the Masters. And on top of that, it's considered to be one of the hardest tickets in sports. So jumping into what the course looks like, just to kind of give you an idea. So here's the main entrance. There is the driving range as soon as you come in. So on those practice round days, the pros will be shooting shots here. Typically, there's some bleachers usually here. As you're walking through, the pro shop is a very big driver for the Masters. I've got my Masters gear on today. Those that go will always have a list of, things they need to get from the pro shop. The pro shop is only open during the Masters. It's just that gear that once you see it, across the room, it's extremely popular. I think last year I read that they did about $1 million a minute. So just to kind of give you an idea of how massive this pro shop is and how popular it is, they have a FedEx that is on standby for shipping this stuff home. So there's also the clubhouse right here. And then we have the par 3 course. So on Wednesday of the tournament, they do a par 3 contest. If you've seen it on TV, this is typically where the players' caddies or their wives or their kids. It's a laid back day. They're usually joking around with each other, and there's a lot more fan interaction this day. Really great. And then we have the full course here. For all of our clients, we give them a worksheet that has some tips and insights for best viewing. So we'll say, okay, this hole has a great view of this fairway plus this green, or, where to kind of set your chair to kind of get some ideal viewing for this tournament. And then something to note, this is an incredibly immaculate golf course. It's so beautiful, and they do such a great job of keeping it immaculate. With golf, there is a lot of walking. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind whenever you're thinking about clients for this particular event. Mobility is incredibly important. We get that, year after year. As soon as they come off the course, they're like, I didn't expect to be walking this much, and they're exhausted. So just kind of something to keep in mind, for your clients. So these are some pictures from Augusta National. So right here at the top, we have the clubhouse. This is a pretty popular place for guests to take pictures in front of. This is the back of the clubhouse. This is where members will typically sit. And then right here, you can kind of see this really popular tree here. This is another view of it here. This is where in the past, Jim Nance will interview pros as they're coming off the course. Again, the great thing about the Masters, happening in Augusta every year, is that, you get these traditions in place. And so, being able to see these things in person just kind of creates that wonderful experience for our clients, if they're interested in the Masters. And then this is one of the most popular holes. It's called Amen Corner. They typically have a lot of azaleas in Augusta National, depending on the weather that year. But typically there's lots of beautiful flowers, and it's incredibly picturesque, and I think even more breathtaking in person. So going over the practice rounds. So practice rounds are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. On Monday, this is going to be your most economical ticket. Some of the pros don't make it out on Monday. But it's a great opportunity to see the course. You are able to bring cameras on the practice rounds. And so, for somebody that is wanting to see Augusta National for the first time, but maybe on a more economical budget, going on Monday is a great option for them. Tuesday is the most all-around value for a practice round day, because you're going to see probably the most players that are going to be out there on the practice rounds, kind of shooting shots from different holes or on the driving range. This is kind of a great day for that. And then on Wednesday, kind of a pro for this is that the pros are going to be on the driving range in the AM, and then the par three contest starts at noon. It's a great day to go early and walk the empty course because, as you know from the aerial view, the par three is kind of at the top left. There's not that many people on the course. So, we'll kind of go over some combinations, but maybe doing a Wednesday, Thursday, where Wednesday you really kind of take it in and are able to walk the course and maybe, kind of map out what you're wanting to see for the tournament. Wednesday is a really great day to do it. Going into the tournament round, so Thursday is the kickoff for the tournament. They have an honorary starters. Last year it was Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, and Tom Watson. So those were the three players last year. They will usually start around 7:30, and then the group tee times start off at 8:30. Thursday and Friday, we're typically going to see those to be high demand for corporate clients. This is so that they can, get home to their families on Saturdays and Sundays. So those are going to be really high demand days. Friday is a cut day. So after the end of the day on Friday, the top 50 players move on to Saturday, Sunday, and then the remaining players are cut. So something to keep in mind if they're wanting to see a particular player and may not be one of the top tier players, going on a Thursday or Friday will ensure that they are able to see that player versus Saturday, Sunday, they could be cut that day. And then on Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, they will start around 11 a.m. On Sunday, because it does start later in the morning, is a great day to get there early and put your chair down on the 18th hole. So kind of an unwritten rule is that, so all of our clients get these green fold chairs you can kind of see in this photo here. But a lot of our clients will take the green chairs and put it on the 18th hole. That way they basically have a reserved seat, for viewing that last hole of the tournament. And so the unwritten rule is that, once you set your chair down, no one's going to sit in it. No one's going to take your chair. So you kind of have the rest of the day to follow a couple of players. And then in the afternoon, you have your seat there at the 18th hole. So we are a tour operator. So we do offer a full package to the masters, which can include a variation of accommodations, whether it be hotel or private home, transportation, tickets to the event, extras such as hospitality or tea times to Augusta National, or tea times to some of the neighboring courses, and then commemorative gifts as well. And then we have an operations team on staff that are going to be there in Augusta just to kind of make sure everything runs smoothly. So talking about multiple package combinations. So we can do a combination of just practice rounds. So those are going to be your more economical packages. We can do a combination of practice rounds and tournament. So maybe they would want to do like a Wednesday, Thursday, or do a Tuesday, go play golf on Wednesday at one of the neighboring private clubs, and then go to the course on Thursday or Friday. Something to note, and I kind of mentioned this already, but there's a lot of really great private clubs, near Augusta National, and they open up to the public during Masters Week. So this is something, for our guys trips or corporates that are wanting to maybe incorporate some golf of their own. This is really a great option for them. So Augusta National being relatively small, there's not a lot of luxury hotels. So for our more discerning clients, or especially for our corporate clients or larger groups, we recommend private homes. We have a great inventory of private homes that can be all different sizes and have all sorts of different amenities, such as, bringing in a private chef one day or a bartender. For corporate groups, we're able to get multiple homes in a row so that they're close to each other. So these are just a lot of different options that we can kind of work through in the sales process to kind of fit their needs. If they're looking to stay in a hotel, one of our options is the Sheraton in Augusta, relatively close to the course, about less than 3 miles away. They actually have a steakhouse on site, so that's something that's great to offer for clients. And then our entry level hotel is the Best Western Plus, also really close. Both of these hotels are actually pretty close to each other. Again, less than 3 miles from Augusta National. This is a newly renovated property, so it is a nice, clean property and, kind of up to our standards for our entry level hotel. Some event extras. So hospitality is something that we really recommend for those wanting to kind of add a little bit extra to their packages. So on Augusta National Golf Course, they have concessions which are going to have sandwiches, soft drinks. They serve some beer even. But for a little bit more elevated of an experience, we offer hospitality, and our offices are based out of this hospitality. So this includes gourmet food throughout the day, private open bar. They'll do cigar rolling, they'll do massages, live music, and after they get off from the course that day or in the mornings before they get on the course, they come to the hospitality, have a wonderful meal. And yeah, we find that a lot of people find this to be a highlight of their trip is this hospitality. So going over our packages. So investments will start at around 35, 65 per person. But we will typically see the packages that people spend will be between 12 and $13,000. So that includes private airport transportation, accommodations, tickets to the tournament itself, tea times. So that's kind of how it goes from 3,500 to 12 to 13,000 is some of these extras. So we'll talk a little bit about bracketing and how you can kind of come to a budget with your clients. So going over the key questions to ask. So getting a personalized proposal, what are the questions you need to ask your clients? First off, have they been to the Masters before? If they've maybe been 10 years ago, a lot has changed. They're constantly doing renovations. So just kind of knowing if they have knowledge of the tournament and what rounds they're interested in. Are they looking more towards practice rounds or tournaments? Maybe they just want to go for the weekend and do Saturday, Sunday. So just kind of knowing what they're looking to achieve. And then what sort of budget are they working with? Main cost drivers for this are going to be their accommodations, whether they go hotel, an entry level hotel versus, the Sheraton, a more deluxe option versus a private home, and how many and which days they're looking to go in the course. So the practice rounds are going to be more economical and versus the tournament days, which will, increase in price. And then any extras, so hospitality, tea times. So what we like to do is recommend a bracketing technique. So what this is kind of what the starting out price is, and then what the average is, and you kind of bracket them from there. So if they are comfortable spending that entry level of 35.65, then kind of saying, okay, well, what extras would you like to include to kind of make this a suitable trip for you? Is it okay being in a private home, adding some hospitality, food and beverage, and kind of that overall, excitement and ambiance of a golf tournament, adding that hospitality will really kind of increase their experience. So, kind of getting an idea of what they're looking to spend. And again, for our commissions for our travel advisors, we do a 12% commission, or we can do net rates as well. So whatever your preference is. Going over some of the sales tips and insights. So we try and do our educational webinars, once a month, give or take. We have a travel advisor tab on our website that has all of our previous webinars. We'll also send this out after the end of the webinar that kind of do an in-depth learning of the different events that we offer. We also offer white label brochures and one-pagers, event teasers, which are great for email marketing, social media. It doesn't have any of our contact or labels. Feel free to use them as you please. A lot of your clients may not know that they, can come to you for these types of events. They don't know you have access to these types of events. So being able to market with some of our materials is really a great way to get your name out there for these sports events. We like to say to leverage us as your partner, not just a supplier. Think of us as an extension of your brand. So we like to really use a consultative approach when we're building these proposals. And we would love, welcome us on a three-way call with your client if you're comfortable. We are experts in sports. We're experts in these particular events like the Masters. We've been doing it. We know the ins and outs. And so we have the knowledge to kind of answer those questions that you may not know the answers to. And we also have the experience of selling to luxury FITs. So kind of knowing, what luxury travelers are looking for, we can kind of fit that into their experience. And during that process, we're able to manage their expectations of what to expect at the Masters, and thus improving their experience. So they know what to expect, they know what is possible with their trip, and overall just having a more improved experience. As we have this consultative approach and have that engagement with you and your client, we see that there's an increased chance of closing because of that increased engagement. Some additional questions that we typically get. Do you sell tickets only? Because we're a tour operator, we are not a ticket broker. We sell packages only to these events. So they will have a component of ticket, hotel, transportation. So that will typically be what our packages include. Our deposit schedule. So typically we're able to break up our packages into payments depending on when the event is. For the Masters, this being in April, we can split this up into two payments with 50% down with the remaining due next month. And then for 2025, we can split that up into four payments or any other events that we may have. We're able to do 25% down and split that up across four payments. How far in advance do we need to plan? So that's a great question that we get. And we are still selling for 2024. We have limited availability, but we are still selling for it. And we're also selling for 2025. The earlier, the better. As these sports events get closer to, it's dynamic. An increase in price will typically happen due to demand. Are these trips cancelable or refundable? So none of our packages are able to be canceled or to be refundable. So they are non-cancelable, non-refundable. And then what is our commission rate and when is it paid? We will typically pay about 2 weeks after the event, and our commission is 12%. So that is typically some of the questions we get. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to send us an email, give us a call. After this webinar, we will send an email with the recording of this as well as marketing materials that you can use for any sort of marketing to your clients. So thank you so much for joining today. I hope that this was informative and you got some great information for your clients for the Masters. Thank you so much.